The ability to freeze a moment in time. Truly magic, yet something billions do every day. It's easy to take a photo for granted with how easy it is to do, yet photography mesmerizes us as it has most people throughout its development. Since its beginning, photographers have captured historic moments, artistic wonders, and, let's be honest, themselves. Through photos, we see ourselves and our world differently. It's a beautiful medium with something truly special about it. But have you ever thought about how insane a photo actually is? How on earth did people figure out you could even do this, let alone figure out a way to actually do it? For such an advanced technology, it seems odd for its story to begin in the 4th century. The Chinese philosopher Mozi observed and documented a strange phenomenon of nature that, in the right conditions, perfectly projected the image of a lit subject onto a wall. Known as the pinhole effect, this quirk of nature is the foundation of photography. It works like this. Light reflecting off an object is forced through a small hole into a dark room. On the wall opposite the hole, a dim, upside-down image of the subject will appear. This happens because the light reflecting off the object is forced through a small opening, causing the object to become clear. In practice, a lens is doing the same thing, but with more light rays to focus, allowing for a sharper image. It was in the 10th century where the first camera, and I say that very loosely, could be said to exist. Built by the scientist Alazan, the camera obscura, meaning dark chamber, was a large dark room with a small hole and a curtain. Alazan would conduct experiments within the room and studied light and solar eclipses. Through his studies with the camera obscura, he concluded that light traveled instantaneously in a straight line and observed the crescent shape of a partial solar eclipse. I also imagine he had a lot of fun of his own playing with this. The next scientist to step things up was none other than Leonardo da Vinci himself. Using the idea of the camera obscura, he created his own compact version with a few modifications. He turned the back of the camera obscura into a reflective material at an angle, which reflected up at a clear surface. This add-on allowed da Vinci to trace complex objects such as trees with accuracy no one had seen before. The practice caught on and became popular among artists, prompting Italian scientist Daniele Barbeau to add a lens. Using spectacle lenses, he widened the hole and fit it with the glass, finding this practice allowed for a much brighter and clearer image. By the mid-1700s, portable box kits could be bought containing a lens, an internal mirror, and ground glass. These kits were very popular among artists and architects who would use them to trace intricate building designs or complex objects. However, the painstaking and imperfect process of tracing caused many to consider ways of quickly and permanently capturing an image through the means of chemistry. For many decades, this dream was an exercise in futility. The layman had no way of obtaining all the necessary chemicals one might need to burn an image onto a surface. That all changed in the early 1800s when chemicals like mercury, butane, and iodine became commercially available. Suddenly, the floodgates opened up for people to experiment with chemically capturing images. One such person, a man named Joseph Niepce, had early but fleeting success in 1816 when he was able to produce temporary images on a chemically soaked film. He termed the process heliography, or sunwriting, and worked hard to advance his technique. He tried many chemical combinations, all with varying but unsuccessful results. 10 years after first capturing a temporary image, Niepce dissolved light-sensitive bitumen in lavender oil and applied a thin coating over a polished pewter plate. He inserted the plate into a camera obscura, positioned it out his window, and left it for a couple days. The sunlight burned the exposed chemicals into the plate, creating an image of the view outside the window, and this time, it would last forever. Known as View from the Window at Le Gras, it is the first permanent photograph ever taken and survives to this day. Eager to keep his success a secret until he had all his business affairs in order, he entered into a partnership with a fellow inventor named Louis Daguerre. The two would work together to further develop the technology and improve it. Unfortunately, Niepce would die only a few years after taking the first photograph, leaving his son and Daguerre to carry on the work. Together, they developed a far improved method of permanently capturing an image known as the daguerreotype. It worked like this. A daguerreotypist polished a sheet of silver-plated copper to a mirror finish, treated it with fumes that made its surface light-sensitive, and exposed it in a camera for as long as judged to be necessary. This made the resulting latent image on it visible by fuming it with mercury vapor, removed its sensitivity to light by liquid chemical treatment, rinsed and dried it, and then sealed the easily marred result behind glass in a protective enclosure. So yeah, think about that the next time you take a selfie or a picture of your cat. The evidence was clear, though, that this method produced higher quality images than Niepce's heliograph, and was announced to the world in 1839. I think this quote from a newspaper at the time really captures the wonder of this invention. It is said that Daguerre has found the means to collect, on a plate prepared by him, the image produced by a camera obscura in such a way that a portrait, a landscape, or any view projected upon this plate by the ordinary camera obscura leaves an imprint in light and shade there, and thus presents the most perfect of all drawings. The physical sciences have perhaps never presented a marvel comparable to this one. Imagine how huge this was for people. All of a sudden, there was a way to permanently capture a moment in time, in greater detail than even history's greatest artists could dream of. It was mind-blowing to the world, and studios rapidly popped up all over Europe and the United States. Portraits were one of the most prominent uses, and I guess you could argue still is. I imagine any portraiture artist felt about the camera how current artists feel about AI. As groundbreaking as the daguerreotype was, it was a painstaking process and produced one-of-a-kind images that could not be replicated. There was plenty of room to improve, and by the 1850s, a much quicker method known as the ambrotype had replaced the daguerreotype almost entirely. One notable use was in 1858 when the NYPD started using the ambrotype to make a photographic collection of wanted criminals known as the Rogues Gallery. This photographic arms race would continue rapidly through the 1800s until a man named George Eastman changed everything all over again. He believed photography should be available to the entire world and sought to make it commercially accessible. The hardest part of the photographic process was developing the film. It was something the average person couldn't easily do. In an effort to solve the problem and in pursuit of his dream, he founded the company Kodak in 1888. Each camera came loaded with a film strip and was sent back to the Kodak headquarters when filled up to be processed. Kodak would develop all the film, reload the camera, and send everything back to the photographer. Their slogan was, "You press the button, we do the rest." This proved to be very successful. Kodak made photography accessible to the masses, which gave the company an enormous lead in the photography industry, which has allowed them to dominate even up till today. So the next time you take a picture, whether it's something you want to remember or just a cool scene, remember the work required to get here, and appreciate how lucky we are to take it for granted. Thanks for tuning into Weird Universe. If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to comment on the topics you want to see me talk about.